Hello there, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy. Today, how to improve your backswing. We're going to look at 3 elements that I think will not only help improve it, but it'll make it simpler. And I think these will be good go-to golf course feels and keys for you. So a good backswing needs to be efficient, needs to store power. It also needs to be simple. If that club's wandering all over the place, if it's complex, it's hard to repeat. So let's start with the all-important pivot motion. I'll give you a few ideas maybe you hadn't considered to really store some energy. Okay, a good backswing pivot, I should say, needs to have several things. It needs to be centered. We don't want any excessive movement around in this fashion. It needs to be balanced, of course. These are things you can work on, and this is not intended to be an exhaustive video on pivot. But the element I want you to consider is a certain sense of dynamic readiness. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, picture this for a second. May not be a great example, but you get the idea. If I had a stick here and some sort of an animal or something's charging at me and I have to hit this thing or I'm in big trouble, when I pull that back, there's going to be a sense of engagement and athletic readiness because I have to really deliver a blow. That's an element you need in your pivot there. So when you work on your pivot and you practice these things, most people, they're just turning, they're trying to shift weight or whatever, but they've sort of failed to capture that innate readiness and dynamic feel that really allows you to explode athletically into the ball. So next on my list, efficiency of hand motion. There's Ernie Els back in his David Leadbetter days. And let's take him to the top of the backswing. Let's put the other circle on there and just notice as he goes from A to B, how simple and efficient that is. A very direct, clean route there. That's what we're shooting for. Let's work on that. If you like these videos, by the way, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. ScratchGolfAcademy.com is my home website. Those who just saw Ernie Els there, great backswing, obviously. He would be neutral to somewhat slightly upright. Figure out where is the best slot for your hands, but give or take, it's about where this back shoulder is. And once you've determined that, what we want you to do is get very familiar with that spot. I heard Gary Player mention one time he felt like he parked his thumbs in this garage slot up here. In other words, he was very familiar with that slot. Now, here's a little suggestion, an old Fred Shoemaker drill. If you take your trail hand and pretend you're going to throw something, skip a rock powerfully, put your lead hand back, you won't be able to reach the ball. Wherever that is going to be about your spot. But my point being, get familiar with that spot. The brain is incredible at going from A to B. You do it when you grab for something, etc. And if you can start to combine this dynamic pivot with a good sense of the slot your hands are in, that whole thing's going to start to get simpler. The key is, or a key is certainly synchronizing them so that as you arrive in that slot, you feel like you've completed this pivot. These are great thoughts to keep you synchronized out on the golf course. Okay, one more pitfall. Third and final one, simplicity of takeaway. Now that you've built a good feel for the overall backswing, don't fall into the pitfall. This is Padraig Harrington of letting the club get behind your hands in the takeaway. That is a very common look for a pro. Now don't misunderstand, relative to the target line, that club is inside that target line, but you don't see it over here behind the hands. Hey, certainly there's exceptions, some great players that have taken it inside a bit and played fantastically, but you will do yourself a favor if you keep the club more in front of your hands, as the plane will be so much easier if you do that. So what is the big issue? You see so many golfers. I teach golf full-time for a living. This is such a common pattern. What is the big issue? Why that's such a problem? Well, the thing is, once the club's too flat, it's now looking above the ball. It has to get steeper to hit the golf ball. Can be done, but in the great majority of cases, it gets too steep. The club starting to wobble around. That element of simplicity that we're looking for is lost a little bit. So basically, the job of your wrist is to hinge the club up. Now, certainly in a backswing, the trail wrist and arm fold a bit and it does come back around, but that's more what we're trying to feel. So here's a little cue for you, and then I'll give you a drill. I'm certainly not a tennis player, or far from a tennis expert, but when I see a little bit of tennis on TV, it's kind of a short racket here. If someone reaches back just to hit a quick forehand or something, you don't see the racket head start back. You just see the thing in position. You see that dynamic look. Certainly they cock their wrist a bit, but not this way. So what I would recommend that you do is practice some backswings once you're familiar with this spot and just pre-hinge. The key with the pre-hinge, don't lift your arms or body, push down on the club. And once you've pre-hinged, make a full pause And from there, try to hit your spot. Certainly the club's going to be excessively over here relative to your hands, but it gives you much, much more the feel. It's a little tricky to do it without a tee, but you can hit some smooth shots. That wasn't too bad there. Start to get that feel. Blend these three ideas together. It takes some work. It's not like falling off a log getting better at golf, but blend these ideas together. They'll help you. They'll really help you as go-to feels on the golf course.